What is up, Jamily? This is JamiroFan 2000 here with yet another story from JamiroTalk. Fan stories from the JamiroTalk International Fan Forums, which pretty much was the most active time for JamiroQuai fans online before the advent of social media. The next story I'd like to tell you about is the leaking of the Dynamite tracklist by Sony. Now, back in you might notice most of these Jamiro stories I'm telling are from the Dynamite era of JamiroQuai, which was, as I prefaced, this was one of the most active times for JamiroQuai fans online before the advent of social media pretty much took everybody away from one place, decentralized everybody to other places to do all their online interactions. Well, what happened is back in April of 2005, around the early 2000s was kind of the hotbed time for piracy and music piracy, most specifically. When Napster, back in 1995, 1996, when Napster got really big, it was the first salvo shot for the when online sharing of media started getting very, very popular. And then, as I said in the last video, Napster kind of started it, and what happened is a lot of other companies started developing clients. We saw a bit of a revolution, you might say, in online applications, and especially in the peer-to-peer area where Napster and LimeWire and so many of these online services started popping up. In the early 00s, piracy was really, really big, and a lot of people were sharing their music. Though the early days of online piracy did see very horribly buy-rated music. And what I mean by buy-rated music was the quality of the music was terrible. It was very, very terrible. It's not like these days where we have lossless format and 320 MP3. Back then it was like really, really low MP3, so the quality of the music was pretty bad unless you ripped it properly. But what happened is some of the record labels decided to start combating the online piracy that was happening. And in the case of Sony, in regards to Dynamite, Sony BMG did something rather interesting, and this was actually discovered by me and a fellow JamiroQuai fan by the name of JamiroWolf. And what happened is we're not. Let me say as a disclaimer: I and my friend were not advocating piracy. We just saw something that was weird going on, and we decided to report it to all of our fellow fans. But in this case, me and JamiroWolf were on some peer-to-peer programs, and I will not name them by name because I barely can remember them. But what happened is Sony BMG was basically flooding these online peer-to-peer networks with dummy MP3 rips of the new JamiroQuai album. And at this time, around April of 2005, we didn't know the name of the album, we didn't know the track listing, we weren't privy to having copyright repertory sites like I most recently had when discovering the track list for the most recent JamiroQuai album, Automaton. Back in that day, we pretty much had to wait for the record label and the band to actually make an announcement about what the songs were, what the album was going to be called, whatever. But in this case, we discovered the track list for Dynamite, with the album that would eventually become Dynamite. We discovered the track list on these peer-to-peer networks. So when we were on there, we saw the track list for the new JamiroQuai album there, clear as day, on peer-to-peer sites. And apparently these were dummy MP3s that were being put up purposely by Sony BMG to combat the already present, incredibly, absolutely, almost in some cases, impossible, insurmountable task of combating online piracy. So that's how we found out the track listing for Dynamite back in 2005, is that Sony and BMG, in a very creative move, is basically trying to combat the early days of online piracy by putting up dummy MP3s of these albums. And some other artists, actually other musical artists at the time, were kind of doing the same thing. Madonna, actually, is an example. Madonna's album leaked around this time, and then what she did was she put out she did the same thing, but these dummy MP3s of her album that were supposedly for free download were actually audio tracks of her cursing out illegal downloaders, which is very funny. But it was very interesting how Dynamite's track list got out. So now you know how the track list for Dynamite for JamiroQuai's album got out originally. I have put a link to the news item from the Funkin Site, my friend David Rowe's site, the Funkin Site, all about this, all about the dummy MP3 lists of the new JamiroQuai track list for Dynamite that got out back in 2005 in the description of this video down below, so be sure to check it out. Very, very interesting story. And I'll see you again really soon with another story from JamiroTalk. Bye, everybody.